Got a dream in a tear last night, watched the world fade out of sight. Seen the ghosts of time preside, eagles soared and falcons cried. Sleeping phoenix on a rise. Abundance and strange the skies. Hello, and welcome to Phoenix Rising. You know, we're living in an incredible time. I mean, it's really an incredible time. It actually began at the beginning of the 1960s, in 1960. And it really is, I suppose, one of the most magical periods that you can imagine in terms of the culmination of so many things in the evolution of our particular species and our civilizations that go with it. And what I'm referring to, what I've been sharing with you in these opening segments, is about the nature of background cycles. We've been in a background cycle, the cross of planning cycle that began in 1615. And that cross of planning cycle is rooted in the precession of the equinox, and the precession of the equinox in the 37th gate, moving backwards or retrograde towards the 55th gate. We started that cycle in 1615 in the 6th line theme, and we entered into the 1st line theme because we're going backwards or retrograde. We entered into that 1st line theme at the beginning of the 1960s. Now the 1st line is about foundations. It's about getting to the solid basis of things. It's about investigating. It is about the exploration and the wonder of getting all of the facts. And of course, we're living in a period between that 1960 to 2027 that I refer to as the return to Eden. This chance not simply to recognize that one has to go forward and multiply and learn from the tree of knowledge as the mythology goes, but to recognize that it's time to complete all of that. That is, we certainly have multiplied. And as far as knowledge is concerned, this is the era, now until 2027, when ultimately whatever truths are possible for our kind to discover and reveal, this is the window for that. It's also something else. It's a window for inner truth at a deep spiritual level. It is part and parcel of the presence of this knowledge on this plane now. It really is about grasping that for the first time we have the tools, we have the framework to be able to fulfill the potential that is there for us. This fulfilling of this potential is what it's really, really all about. Anyway, let's get on with our show.
Hello, welcome to Phoenix Rising. I'm in the process of teaching the latest professional training level, and I again and again come to that place where I see that those who are trying to learn to decode the body graph, they meet a lot of difficulties basically because they lose the holistic perspective. And there are three keynotes that really, they allow us to maintain not only a holistic perspective over the way the energy moves in the body graph if you are a human design student, but in your own process. When it comes to the transformation of your awareness as an individual, as a human being, there are three keynotes in human design that really make a huge difference. They're called sharing, empowerment, and support. And these three keynotes, you see, when we talk about the dualistic nature of our consciousness, self and not self, nothing, when we talk about the homogenized consciousness, nothing is as deeply homogenized as, what we share and what we don't share. What we support and what we don't support. What makes us feel empowered and what makes us feel disempowered. These three keynotes, they they really bring everything together. I mean, you know, depending on the correctness, on the way in which you live your strategy and inner authority, you know, the overall transformation that is going to change in your perception is the perception of what you share, what makes you feel empowered and empowering, what you support and what you feel supported by. You know, there is a deep, deep transformation in our individual awareness that can take place, you know, in the way we perceive each one of these overall frequencies that we are taking in and putting out, experiencing through our holistic design all the time wherever we meet with someone else in the aura. So I'm going to be doing a series in which in each one of these keynotes, I'm going to elaborate on them to show you, well, you know, the self, the not self dynamics of that keynote, and of course, the potential for wisdom that is always there. So, till next time.
Hi there, and welcome to your Neutrino Weekly Weather Report. And our cloudy skies continue, by the way. That is, melancholy is still a strong theme for us. We begin with the sun in the 4323, and then it's going to move into the 14th gate and the 8th gate. So we continue this deep individual theme. And again, remember, all of this activation that we get from individual aspects in the design are always going to bring melancholy and sadness into the program. And when you think about that on a homogenized scale, in other words, when you think about it in terms of, you know, the planet itself and the billions of human beings, it really is a dark cloud that sort of descends when you have all of this unaware melancholy at work, and everybody's trying to figure out why, in fact, they feel the way that they do. So whenever we have individual activations like this, they have an immediate impact on the world around us. Our world already is deeply dysfunctional. You know, it is a world that struggles to maintain, you know, to survive for most human beings. And with this kind of activation, there is this added weight, added pressure of a sadness that permeates things. It's not, you know, it's not possible for these beings, at least where we are today, to grasp that there are advantages in all of this, that there's a potential for, you know, a creative opening in life through this, that one does not have to get stuck in reason making, but nonetheless, that's what's there in the weather. What's also interesting for us, of course, is the nodes of the moon, that is, the nodes in the 15-6 and the 10-6. And basically, the nodes for us, in terms of the way they operate through the program, is that they point the way in which all of us look at central themes. So fundamentally, we get conditioned to see things in sort of the same way. The window that we're looking out on now is a window because of the 10th gate, the 6th line. This is all about behavior and about whether behavior is exemplar or not. In other words, there's going to be a lot of judgment about the way people are behaving, countries are behaving, religions are behaving. In other words, behavior is going to be one of those things that we're going to be looking at. We're also going to be looking at humanity itself. In other words, we're going to be looking at, you know, whether there is a consistent flow, whether we are working well together, or whether we're beginning to break down in that sense. Something that is going to keep us all focused. But I guess the real event, if you will, of this week in terms of the weather, because we have the movement of Pluto, and it's going to leave the 10th gate and the 6th line, and it's going to go into the 58th gate, the first line. It's going to go into the joyous, and it's going to go into the first line, which is the love of life, one of the most beautiful lines in the Rei Vi Ching. You know, for all the sadness that's going to be in the air, by the time those transits, individual transits of the Sun-Earth come to an end, we're going to have this deep, deep pressure from Pluto in the root, you know, this deep pressure to really find a way to be fulfilled in this life. So it's a nice highlight You know, a little bit of sun poking through in what is a cloudy sky. But always remember, if you follow your strategy and authority, the weather, it's for your pleasure. Have a nice week. In the Maya, there are always traps. We actually ride in one as passenger consciousness inside of these vehicles. Very early in our development within the womb as a fetus, it's already established the limitation of what it is to be in this form. And ultimately, the kinds of dependencies that are going to point us towards the control mechanisms that are going to take us away from what's possible for us. Everything about the nature of human design is ultimately about conditioning. It's about conditioning. And we are designed to be conditioned. You see that in your chart. You see that in its whiteness. You're designed to be attracted to what you are not. And what this leads to is dependencies. And of course, dependencies become the bedrock of the way in which human beings think that their lives need to unfold. And they end up being dependent not just simply on another, but they end up being dependent on many others. And they end up being dependent on institutions and dependent on governments and dependent on charity and dependent on, and it goes on and on and on. It becomes nothing but dependencies. It leads to a psychology that says we cannot stand on our own, that it's not possible for us truly to stand on our own, to make decisions on our own, to be clear on our own. And that those dependencies draw us into the homogenized world of mental distortion and decision making. And you lose the possibility of ever discovering what it is to be you. To be you. Human design is not about the other. It is first and foremost about you, the individual. About the possibility of you discovering that you have your own authority. Your own authority. An authority that's not speculative, an authority that is not wishy-washy, an authority that's not dependent or concerned about the mental fears in your life, an authority that arises from deep within you to guide you in your process on this plane. To follow your strategy and authority is an enormous step. It's a step, in a sense, right outside of the box. Because it's a step that puts you in a place where there are few others. A place where you can operate according to your own authority and to discover what is there for you. Human design is about differentiation. We each have a unique potential that can unfold if we operate as ourselves. Don't get caught in the trap. Don't get caught in the dependencies that determine what you're going to do in this life. Whatever it's going to be, whatever a decision is going to be, it has to come out of your authority. Only then is that decision truly, truly for you.
Got a dream in a tear last night, watched the world fade out of sight. Seen the ghosts of time preside, eagles soared and falcons cried. Sleeping phoenix on the rise. Abundance and strange the skies.